Let's go on to another question. This one from Olivia Parsons, please. Olivia Parsons.
With the Labour Party currently tearing itself apart, is the SNP the only credible opposition to the current government?
Is the SNP the only real opposition? Alistair Campbell.
Well, the SNP is the government in Scotland. And I think the way that the SNP became the government has lessons for the Labour Party. My real worry about the Labour Party at the moment is that if we're not careful, we can go into, frankly, oblivion. We have no divine right to exist. What's happened, there were times, Joanna and I were talking about this earlier, the Labour Party took Scotland for granted for a long time, for far too long, and we paid a very, very heavy price. And I fear that what's happening at the moment with the Labour Party is that we are not reaching out beyond a fairly narrow core. It's great that Jeremy and John and the rest of them have brought in lots of new people into the party, and there's a lot of energy in there, but I worry that we are losing the things that you need to do, both the policy agenda and the politics, that actually allow you to win general elections.
What are you thinking of in particular? Well,
I think the politics has become, you're right about tearing itself apart, and I think that, in a sense, I'm not saying there's only blame on Jeremy Corbyn, but I do think this whole sort of momentum thing has been incredibly divisive. I think a lot of people in the Labour Party, who've been in the Labour Party for a long time, feel that this is going back to a politics of the 1980s. There's a nastiness in the party which we haven't had since the 1980s. And also, there's always been an element within the Labour Party that prefers having power in the party to winning power in the country. And you need that. You need that, that's fine. But you can't have that as the driving force in the party. Now, when I say this, and I guarantee now, the Twitter trolls will be straight in.
Absolutely.
He's obsessed with winning, he's a Tory, da-da-da-da. You get it all the time.
It's nasty.
I'm obsessed with winning because unless we win, the Tories can bring back grammar schools. Unless we win, we wouldn't have been able to have things like the minimum wage and Sure Start and devolution to Scotland and peace in Northern Ireland and all the other things that we did. You have to win power in this country. And John talks about building a social movement. Social movements don't deliver the things that a Labour government did and that a Labour government in the future can. So I do want the Labour Party to unite, but it has to unite around something, a policy agenda and politics that we can actually go to places like this. I can remember we went to Dorset South in 1997, not far from here. And I remember the media saying to us, this is just a stunt. You come into Dorset South, you're never going to win this. We won it, and we held it. Not by being hard left, not by saying anybody who's a Tory is a bad person. We're going to have to get Tories to vote for us. We're going to have to get SNP people to vote for us.
That's how you win.
And that is how we win. Right. And if we don't understand that and act according to that, I'm afraid, I worry genuinely that we're facing oblivion.
John McDonnell.
We have to win. We have to win. No one is arguing that we don't have to win. We have to win elections, and we have to ensure that we have the broadest appeal. And we have to recognise the political times in which we're in. The reason that Jeremy Corbyn got elected leader is because, excuse me, he reflects a movement, excuse me, right there across Europe and America as well. People have been through the crash of 2008. People have experienced the austerity over the years and wanted something different. People who wanted a straightforward politics as well, without spin and triangulation.
John, we did straightforward politics.
Let me
it was straightforward.
Let me finish. I think that's what people voted for when they elected Jeremy to be leader of the party. And at that point in time, we'd lost a general election. We were between 7 and 10 points behind in the polls. What then happened is that we won every parliamentary by-election and increased our majorities. We won every mayoral election. We matched Ed Miliband in the local council elections at his highest, and actually we were overtaken.
So you're on course to victory.
Well, let me just...
Well, no, hang on a second. Let's just get to the point.
Let me just finish this point.
These long lists of what you've done.
Let me just finish this point.
All right,
We'd overtaken the Conservatives in the poll. So we were laying the foundations. We were laying the foundations, I believe, for electoral victory in due course. And we were bringing together the party, left, right and centre. The shadow cabinet that Jeremy appointed was from left, right and centre.
So what went wrong? Because, I mean, now you're clearly not in the lead in the polls.
Fair enough. But the lesson that we've got to learn very, very clearly is that people will not vote for a divided party. What happened is that a group of, unfortunately, people within the party weren't willing to accept Jeremy's mandate. They launched what is effectively a coup, and we've gone through a couple of months of, I think, absolute distraction.
But I'm interested in one thing. Do you think that the country as a whole has moved to the left? I mean, you make no bones about saying you're a Marxist. Your reaction to the capitalist crisis. I'm a Marxist. I'm honest with people. Is that what the country as a whole wants? A Marxist as Chancellor of the Exchequer?
I'm a socialist.
A Marxist are the words you used.
I'm a socialist.
Are you a Marxist?
No, I'm a socialist.
Well, why did you say I'm a Marxist?
Because actually, I was demonstrating a prediction of the capitalist crisis at the time. Anyway,
I'm honest with people. You said I'm a Marxist.
That's right.
I didn't want to.
I was predicting what Marx would say in terms of the economic crisis that was coming.
You said, I'm a Marxist.
I was predicting...
You can go on YouTube,
I was predicting what was coming.
You're a very nasty piece of work. And I shall tell you this as well. I'll tell you this. Let me tell you what's happening.
If I can finish a sentence...
Can I tell you what's happening in Parliament? Obviously, I don't agree with Labour MPs, but there are a number of Labour MPs who are good and honourable, decent people who believe in things that I don't agree with, but they add value and they are elected. They haven't formed a government, but they're there to do a job. And the job they're there to do is to hold my government to account and to represent those of you who are not Conservatives and make sure that your voice is heard and democracy prevails. And many of these people are frightened, so frightened, humiliated, almost terrorised by Mr. McDonnell and his gang. They will leave politics, and that's bad for politics. Rubbish. And there is a fine example of it, ladies and gentlemen. You are being let down. As a democracy, we need good, strong oppositions who are credible, who test government, hold them to account.
But sorry, what is it? Just
we're in the position of relying on the SNP to do the job of the opposition.
John McDonnell,
it's shameful.
All right. You said he was a very nasty piece of work.
I think he is.
You may think that. You need to justify it if you say that.
Because there are colleagues of mine in the House of Commons, Labour MPs, who are at the point of being terrorised by McDonnell and his cronies. And they don't stand up to them. There are women MPs who suffer day in and day out from misogynist, unpleasant, sexist abuse on Twitter, on Facebook, from people who apparently are within their own party. There is a Jewish Labour MP, a woman who is living in a safe house because of the levels of anti-Semitism she has to bear. It's a disgrace and it must stop, and you, sir, can stop it.
Alistair Campbell. Alistair, I just want to know, Alistair Campbell, do you recognise that picture, just before I come to John? I will let you.
You've not allowed me to speak while this abuse has been levelled at me. Let me make this absolutely clear, and we've made it clear time and time again. We will not tolerate abuse within the Labour Party. We've condemned it time and time again. Every time there's been a level of abuse that's been waged, and Jeremy Corbyn has made it absolutely clear, if we've identified the individual, they will be out of this party and suspended. Simple as that. We're not accepting this smear campaign that's going on from the Tories and others as well. We've been working over the last year to unite the party, and we were winning electorally and in the polls. Yes, a coup was launched by a small minority who could not accept Jeremy's mandate. We are a small minority who could not accept the mandate. Jeremy was elected on the basis of 59.5% of our members. We are now going through a democratic election. Once that election is over, whoever is the leader, we will unite behind. And we have been an effective opposition in terms of defeating the Tories on tax credits, on PIP, the cuts for disabled people, and a range of others.
All right. What were you saying in the back there? I'll come to you now. Who was shouting out about MPs? One of you. Was it you in the green shirt? No?
Red jacket.
No, in the red jacket, yes.
It's a minority. There was 80% of the MPs had no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn. That's not a minority.
OK,
It is not a majority.
You heard what Alice Super said. Do you recognise anything of that in Labour?
I certainly think, I mean, I said earlier that I'm not going to get personal. I said earlier that I think there is a level of nastiness inside the Labour Party at the moment that's really quite upsetting for a lot of people. And it's not necessary, it's not nice. I do think some of it is because there are elements of the old hard left who've always frankly hated the Labour Party, who have now got a big voice within the Labour Party. That's a fact. And that is turning a lot of people off, and I think it's going to turn the public off once they know that that's going on. But I also want to say something about what John said about how this has all come about. Because these members of the shadow cabinet, who, I mean, I don't even see this as a coup. I see this as a group of people who were trying to make something work and who decided over time this isn't working and it's not going to work. Yeah. And I look at what this government is doing. I look at something like Brexit. Now, OK, there's been a referendum. I was, as was Anna, on the losing side. But I know, and I still feel, this is potentially a disaster for the country, and I see no opposition. I don't see the opposition with a strategy.
We have a strategy. We have a strategy.
I don't see it.
We have a strategy.
I don't see it. And so, and when John talks about we have to unite, yes, we have to unite, but we have to be clear what we are uniting around.
Well, what's interesting in the leadership debate, is that there's been virtually no difference on policy. The most common expression used by Owen Smith is, I agree with Jeremy. So the issue is not around policy. We've actually turned those arguments around.
I don't agree.
We're an anti-austerity party. We have our red lines in terms of the Brexit campaign, which is unanimously agreed across the Parliamentary Labour Party. And we're campaigning. Well, we're distracted, by a leadership election that should never have been brought about.
Joanne Cherry.